Fred was a rebel against authority. He objected to authority whenever it attempted to interfere with what he wanted to do. Fred actually was not a comedian who used blue material, but the censors were terribly cautious, shall we say, and would frequently read into the line something that was not there.
And did you worry all week about that Sunday night show?
You had to worry because you had to keep your rating, and when ratings became exposed to the advertising people, why then you had to be conscious of that, and also the sales of the product and the quality of your show and the competition and the opposition and things. There were many things to be concerned about.
By January of 1949, Fred Allen was worn out. In December of 1948, his rating was a healthy 20 points, while ABC's musical giveaway show Stop the Music pulled a rating of 13. But after Edgar Bergen left NBC's airwaves, the network moved Allen's show up a half hour to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. His rating cratered. The next month it was 11.7, while Stop the Music jumped to 16.3. By March it had fallen to 9.4, while Stop the Music had risen to 17.6.
How did you try to handle the situation when Stop the Music came on at the same time as your Sunday night show and took over?
Stop the Music can't take all the credit. The problem came when Jack Benny and Amos and Andy and Edgar Bergen all went over to the other network, and our show was left alone. We stayed with NBC, and we were sort of vulnerable because most of the audience up until 8:30 went over to the other network, or 8 o'clock, I guess it was. And we were a show that was 18 years old, and consequently a new show which appealed to greed, and, you know, supposedly the money was available for people. Actually, it wasn't. That's explained in the book, too. But the coming of the quiz show showed that the interest in the advertising part of the business, the advertising money supports the programs, they were interested in the cheaper shows that would get the larger audiences for their advertising purposes. They had no interest in the development of talent or in the quality of the shows, and consequently, when the quiz shows were cheap, then they became very popular, not because the public wanted them or because they were exceptionally good. It was principally because they were cheaper. Nobody profited except the man who owned the quiz show. The network didn't profit because they were advertising 20 products who were giving their products to the people who owned the quiz show to advertise for nothing. As far as the sponsor was concerned, they had no musicians on, they had nobody on there.
Allen was his own chief writer. He was a voracious reader, sometimes scouring as many as 10 newspapers each day for topical material. In the end, perhaps Fred Allen cared too much, as his close friend Donald Voorhees remembered.
Each year, Fred dreaded more the chore of this weekly radio program that he had to do, and toward the end of the season he'd be really quite beat. As a matter of fact, that brought on no question what that brought on, the hypertension, high blood pressure, because it got to be more and more of just a dreadful chore as time went on, because Fred would never settle for repeats or imitations.
By June, with his rating down to an unthinkable 5.8, he'd had enough. The 55-year-old called it a 17-year radio career after June 26th. Jack Benny and Henry Morgan were his final guests. Fittingly, the program ran long, and Allen's network feed was cut off.
Mr. Benny, the reason that I'm here...
Yes, Jack, look, Henry has to borrow $300 by 4 o'clock, or some shyster with a loan company will take his furniture and his moose head.
Yes, Mr. Benny, see, we thought that maybe you would...
$300.
I'm a good risk, Mr. Benny. I've been working all winter.
Yes.
You worked all winter and you're broke?
I'm flatter than something that's been stepped on.
Mr. Morgan, this is rather a personal question, but what do you do with your money?
I spend it.
I see your problem already. How do you spend your money?
Well, after a hard day's work, I generally go into a bar for a cocktail.
Yes?
I buy drinks for everybody, and then we go to dinner.
We?
After buying a few drinks, I suddenly acquire a crowd of friends.
And you buy everybody dinner?
Well, if I bring guests in to eat, I have to pick up the check, don't I?
I've heard of it.
After dinner, the whole gang follows me to a nightclub. I pay the check and tip everybody wearing a mess jacket. Always end up broke. That's why I need $300.
Mr. Morgan, if you would do as I do, you wouldn't need $300.
Well, what do you do?
Well, after a hard day's work like you, I go into a bar.
And you buy a drink?
First, I let out a shriek so everybody sees me, and then I faint.
You faint?
A crowd gathers. Somebody gives me 3 or 4 brandies to bring me to. I get up off the floor, shake hands all around, and leave for dinner.
Do you eat alone, Mr. Benny?
No, I usually find a group of friends at a table, and I sit with them.
Who pays for the dinner?
Well, all during the meal, I keep feeling my pat of butter.
You keep feeling your butter?
Yes. When it comes time to pay, I reach for the check. While my hand is slipping around, somebody else picks it up.
Well, I'd like to know something. After dinner, do you go out to a nightclub?
Always. I order champagne for everybody. Then just before the floor show finishes, I swallow 4 sleeping pills fast.
4 sleeping pills?
Yes, I don't know how the party ends up or who pays the check. I just wake up in bed the next day well rested.
You see, Henry, Mr. Benny really knows how to live.
And nobody ever made me this cheap on my own program.
Well, Mr. Benny, I'll certainly follow your advice. Oh, there's just one more thing.
Yes, Mr. Morgan.
Can you let me have $300?
Yes, Jack. Henry has to have $300 by 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock? Why, it's 5 after 4 now. Excuse me, that's the phone. I'll answer it in the booth.
Fred, it's 5 after 4. I'm ruined.
Now, Henry, don't go to pieces.
Well, Fred, my furniture, my moose head, the Mohawk Loan Company will take everything.
Henry, I'll go home with you. Maybe I can talk to the shyster who's president of that Mohawk Loan Company.
Well, I'm sorry, fellas. I have to leave. That phone call was urgent. Some business just came up.
Well, let's go, Henry.
Maybe I can give you fellas a lift. Which way are you going?
Well, I'm going home. I live on East 61st Street.
Really? I'm going to East 61st Street.
I live at 331.
Now, that's a coincidence. I'm going to 331.
Then you must be coming to my house.
I don't know. I have to pick up some furniture and a moose head.
Jack Benny. Besides running a turnstile in the subway, a slot in the order.
I also happen to be the shyster who's president of the Mohawk Loan Company.
This is NBC, the national broadcasting company.
Through general acceptance, I think you find that things change as you progress. Not always for the better, but they change. Life is constant adjustment to change. I mean, nothing stays as it is.
And I'm sorry about that.
It is unfortunate that you can't just pick a time in your life where things are going well and the children are at a certain age and you just stop there and just live eternally, but you can't do that.
What time of your life, if you could do that, would you want to?
Well, I've been so busy, I've never given it any thought. It's a waste of time anyway. You can't accomplish it, so why waste your time thinking about something you can't do?
Well, I would think
possible.
you would have picked the time when Sunday nights you had the greatest radio program in the country.
I also had the greatest aggravation and the greatest stress and the bigger taxes at that time, too. So here's something on the other side. There's something to be said on the government side, too.
Although Fred Allen's program came to a close, he was still under contract. He became a regular on NBC's The Big Show, appearing on 24 episodes. And he did eventually break into TV, first as the MC of Judge for Yourself, and later spending the rest of his life as a regular panel member on CBS's What's My Line.
I left radio. Partly radio left me, and then I got the idea and I left radio. No, I was ill at the time, and I had to quit for a while. By the time I got better, radio had sort of gone over the hill.
I hope it hasn't now, because I love radio.
Well, radio...
I'm mad about this microphone instead of 3 cameras with 50
That's true.
men.
I think you get the better attention from the audience because the audience has to join you and use a little imagination, where on television you have no imagination at all, including the people who are pushing the cameras around, because they have very little respect for the actor, too. You can create an atmosphere or establish a locale at a microphone, but you can't do that in television unless somebody paints a scene or unless the camera is at a certain angle. And It seems to me that television is a triumph of machine over people.
Between 1954 and 56, he retired to a small New York office to write 6 hours each day without distractions. He penned a newspaper column and wrote 2 autobiographies, Treadmill to Oblivion, which focused on his radio and TV career, and Much Ado About Me, which covered his childhood vaudeville and Broadway years.
Could you just explain what Treadmill to Oblivion means? Why you called it that?
Well, I called it that because any successful person, or especially a comedian who gets involved in the mechanized version of the entertainment world, has to compete with the machine. And, of course, he has to lose the battle because the machine is going to survive, and the comedian... I treat comedians because I know more about them and was formerly and am currently an alleged comedian.
But Treadmill to
Well, you're on a
Oblivion.
treadmill. If you're on, we did 700 and some odd hours during the 18 years we were on radio. And ultimately, the machine is still here, the microphone is still here, and I became ill. Not from reading the jokes, but I mean from pressure and work and sustained aggravation and things like that.
I wonder if you just read the
studio.
last couple of lines in your book.
Well, that tells you, when a radio comedian's, whether or not he knows it, the successful comedian is on a treadmill to oblivion. When a radio comedian's program is finally finished, it slinks down memory lane into the limbo of yesterday's happy hours. All that the comedian has to show for his years of work and aggravation is the echo of forgotten laughter and some receipts from the Treasury Department.
But that's sad.
It is sad, but it's true. Everything that's true is sad, in a way.
Echoes of forgotten
laughter, that's true.
Treadmill to Oblivion is one of the best-selling autobiographical books by any radio star in history.